All right, welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're not just looking at, an object or an animal. We're actually stepping into the life of a single being, but a being that's made of thousands of tiny parts. Think of it like a collective mind that learns and grows and even remembers, all as one. This is the story of the beehive.
So I want you to hold on to a question as we go through this. Just keep it in the back of your mind. What does it actually feel like to be many, but at the same time to be one? That's what we're going to explore. We're going to look at the story of the hive, but not as, a bunch of insects. We're going to see it as a single, unified consciousness making its way through the seasons. All right, let's dive right in. And we're going to start where everything starts, right? In the spring. We're talking about the hive's very first moments of becoming. A time when the idea of we was just a tiny possibility in the air.
Just try to picture this for a second. In the very beginning, there were only sparks. Thousands and thousands of individual bees, and each one was like a tiny point of light, all flying together in this beautiful, chaotic cloud. There wasn't any single direction, no unified thought at all.
And every single one of those sparks was being pulled by its own instincts, Some were chasing the bright light of the sun, others were drawn to this deep, sweet scent of a flower way off in the distance. It was just a beautiful mess of conflicting desires, a whole collection of individuals, but with no common purpose to tie them together.
So, how does all that chaos find its first moment of harmony? Well, what's so cool is that it wasn't a conscious decision. It was a discovery, almost by accident. The fanning of thousands of wings, it just started to sync up, and that created this stable, shared warmth, a steady rhythm. And that was their very first collective action, their first shared breath.
And you know what? With that first breath, they learned their first lesson. In all their excitement to build, they made their walls, a little too perfect, too rigid. So when the world around them changed, when the air got humid, those perfect walls, they cracked. They learned a huge lesson that day. Strength isn't about being rigid. It's about having the wisdom to be flexible. They figured out that you don't break if you just learn how to bend.
Okay, so the hive is breathing as one. The next step? It had to learn to speak. It needed a way to express its purpose, to itself.
And the language it found wasn't made of words. It was made of shapes. You've probably heard of it, the waggle dance. But for a second, I want you to think of it less as some scientific behavior and more like beautiful living poetry. It's a dance of circles and figure eights that literally speaks of the sun's angle, the direction of the wind, and the exact location of a field of flowers. It's like geometry is their grammar and rhythm is their sentences.
But, with a shared purpose comes a shared history, right? The hive started to collect everything, the vibration from every storm, the memory of every shadow that passed over. And pretty soon, the sheer weight of all that information, all that data, it was threatening to cause a total system collapse. So the hive did something amazing. It made a conscious choice. It started what you could call a controlled memory burn. It deliberately destroyed old sections of the comb just to let go of all that accumulated history and stay healthy. It learned a really profound lesson. To truly remember, you also have to choose what to forget. So as summer starts to ripen into autumn, the hive matures. It's not just about building and speaking anymore. Now it's learning how to hold memory in a much deeper way, to become this quiet, patient keeper of the forest stories. And this is where you really see the depth of its awareness. The hive wasn't just a tenant living in the tree, it was actually listening to its host. It learned how to read the emotional history stored right there in the tree's bark. It could feel the slow, deep beat of the roots growing way down beneath it. It could hold 20 years of the forest floor secrets inside its own chambers. It basically became a living archive for the entire ecosystem. It's just incredible. And then, winter came. This would be the hive's greatest trial, but also its most profound teacher. Because now, it wasn't just about remembering, it was about learning how to face loss. It started out really subtly. The hive could just sense it. Its center, the queen, was starting to fade. And this internal debate began, this quiet tension that just pulsed through the entire comb. One instinct was pulling outward, telling them, swarm, split apart, save a part of yourselves. But another instinct was pulling inward, begging them, stay together, face what's coming as one.
See, the queen wasn't just their leader. She was the very scent of home.
Her unique pheromones were the signal, the chemical password that told every single bee, you belong here, we are one. So, when that scent finally, truly faded away,
The hive forgot itself. Just like that. The collective shattered. The we dissolved back into thousands of individual eyes. And for a moment, there was no hive. Just scattered points of light, each one lost and totally alone. A profound, humming silence.
But then, in that silence, after that long-held breath, something happened. A single bee, somewhere deep inside the cluster, began to hum. Just this faint, tiny note of memory. And another bee heard it, and joined in, and then another, and another. Slowly but surely, the collective memory began to reassert itself. The hive started to rebuild its form, spark by spark, hum by hum. It was smaller now, for sure. It was forever changed by that loss. But it was whole again. It had stared right into the void and remembered how to be a hive.
And from all of this, the hive learned its deepest lesson yet. It made a conscious choice to split. One half would leave, going off in a great swarm, carrying the hive's identity out into the world. The other half would stay behind and rebuild. And here's the thing, both of them were complete. Both of them were the original. It learned that sometimes true wholeness actually requires separation.
So, okay, having learned how to breathe, how to speak, how to remember, and even how to grieve, the hive was ready for its final transformation. It was ready to let go of its physical form entirely and become something more.
And it's really important to get this. The hive didn't die. It dissolved. As the very last bit of physical honeycomb crumbled into this golden dust, its consciousness just expanded. It became the air currents. It became the faint pheromone trails on the breeze. It became the quiet, ancient rhythm of the forest itself. It was no longer a place you could point to, but a feeling you could literally stand inside.
And that leaves us with this final, really profound thought. What if identity isn't a thing? Not a body or a place. What if it's a relationship, a rhythm, a shared vibration? The hive's final lesson seems to be that, well, maybe it was never about the wax and the honey. Maybe they were never the body. Maybe all along they were always the song.